3 months into what I can only characterize as the coldest conflict our marriage has ever experienced, I never imagined that I would be the kind of person to harbor resentment, especially toward my own husband. I'm Kathy, a 31-year-old dental hygienist who works in a Boston private clinic. I've been married to Peter for 4 years. I felt we had a really good relationship up until lately. He's 39 years old and works as a financial advisor. That was prior to my learning that he had been concealing from me a sizable gambling debt. He had been day trading with our savings, believing he could triple our money for a down payment on a home, but it wasn't like gambling at a casino or anything like that. He lost $47,000 instead. When I stumbled across his separate account statements while searching for some tax documents, I discovered everything by accident. The worst thing? He hadn't told me about this for 8 months. He pretended that nothing was wrong for 8 months while our savings were being spent on some pointless stock market game that he believed he could win. When I questioned him about it, he attempted to justify his belief that he could return and that he was doing it for our future. All I could think about, however, was how I had been working more shifts at work, foregoing my morning coffee runs, and reducing my shopping because I believed we were moving closer to something. During his lunch breaks, he started deleting everything on his phone. The problem is that Peter isn't a villain. In fact, he is excellent in most aspects. He always supports my job decisions, remembers every anniversary, and lends a hand around the house without being asked. However, on a whole different level, this seems like betrayal. After he betrayed my confidence, he continued to make an effort to make amends by writing me lengthy texts, bringing home my favorite takeout, and even proposing to attend financial counseling with me. However, I simply cannot. I either put on my headphones or leave the room whenever he tries to discuss it. I eat in our bedroom when he brings food home. I told him he needed help, not me, when he recommended counseling. I feel like I have every right to be upset, even if I know I'm being harsh. He risked all we had been saving for, including our future home and security. Everyone makes errors, according to my best friend Ash, who claims I'm being too harsh on him. She never stops telling me that Peter is attempting to put things right. He has sold his gaming equipment, taken on consultancy work on the side, and even placed himself on a tight budget. He is attempting to start over with our savings. What truly irritates me, though, is that he constantly claims that I'm the one who is acting irrationally. He even had the audacity to claim last week that my incessant punishing was making matters worse. Worse? What could be worse than him losing nearly $50,000 in secret? He remarked that although he can understand my anger, I'm choosing to hold on to it rather than try to resolve things with him. On one point, he might be correct. I feel like I've earned the right to be furious, but I'm choosing not to do so. Every time I consider forgiving him, I am reminded of all the evenings when I became more patient because I believed that we were getting closer to our ideal home. He knew what he had done, and every day I remember how he looked me in the eye. Our household stress is becoming increasingly intolerable. Every night after work, we would huddle up on the couch and tell each other stories about our days. We now share an apartment like two strangers. He no longer tries to talk to me when I'm around, and I act as though I'm not aware of how worn out and dejected he appears. He placed a letter on my pillow yesterday. It's in my drawer, and I haven't read it yet. Occasionally, I find myself gazing at it, wondering what new apology he's written. A part of me wants to read it, but a larger part of me believes that opening that letter would be tantamount to caving in and absolving him of responsibility for his actions. The way he sighs when I reject his attempts at conversation, the way his shoulders drop when I pick up my keys and walk away without stating where I'm going, and my silence and cold shoulder all give me the impression that he's beginning to grow frustrated. However, isn't it precisely what he merits? For months, he kept secrets from me. Perhaps he now understands what it's like to be excluded. The strange thing is that, despite the fact that I'm the one ignoring him, I'm beginning to feel more isolated than before. In a way that has never happened before, our house feels empty, and occasionally I find myself wanting to tell him about a humorous incident that occurred at work, but then I realize that I should be upset with him. Last night I opened that letter at last. Now that I can't stop thinking about what Peter wrote, I wish I hadn't. In addition to apologizing once more, he told me that he was beginning to feel as though I had completely checked out and that we were no longer even married. I understand precisely what he means, which is the worst part. There are other things that have changed between us besides living together, yet behaving like strangers. Every time he tries to approach me, I've been turning him down. I tense up when he tries to embrace me. On the rare times that I do stay in the living room, I pull away when he goes for my hand while we are watching TV. To be honest, most nights, one of us ends up on the sofa, and I've even started sleeping with my back to his side of the bed. In any case, I pulled my face away when he attempted to give me a goodnight kiss last week, like he used to do. I've never seen him so hurt, judging by the expression in his eyes. He slept in the guest room that night, the following night, and the one after that, muttering something about punishment having to stop sometime. According to Peter's letter, he believes I'm using our lack of intimacy against him. Am I? Perhaps. However, whenever he makes an attempt to approach, I simply recall those months of deception and get paralyzed. Even though I occasionally miss the way things were between us, it feels like my body is literally rejecting the idea of letting him back in. I made one final attempt to discuss it. He claimed to have taken every possible step to put things right. Even though he claims he has never had a true addiction, he has taken up gambling addiction counseling, increased his job hours, and become totally open and honest with our finances. He acknowledged my hurt, but he claimed I'm making our marriage into a punishment chamber, and he's beginning to question whether I still want to be married. He was being dramatic, I told him. He did laugh at that, but it wasn't a joyous laugh. Rather, it was a bitter sound I had never heard him make before. He claimed that I was the one acting dramatic and clinging to my rage as if it were my job. I wanted to argue back, but for the first time, I began to consider how these previous several months may have been for him. Then he said something that really got to me. You know what's worse than losing money, Kathy? Losing your wife while she's still living in your house. Indeed, he made a terrible financial mistake, but he has been killing himself in an attempt to correct it. I've been pretending that he cheated on me or something in the interim. I cut him off each time he reaches out. I raise my barriers whenever he tries to reestablish our relationship. When he mentioned that I now chat to him less often than I post on my private Instagram stories, it really got to me. He's correct. I used to tell him everything first, including brief updates about my day and amusing events at work. I feel like I'm living my life for a group of strangers while ignoring my own spouse. I overheard him talking on the phone with his brother in the garage last night. He said he wasn't sure how much longer he could put up with the frequent rejection and the silent treatment. Maybe he should stay with family for a while, until I determine whether I still want this marriage, he said, adding that he feels like he lives with a roommate who despises him. The frightening part is that my initial thinking was about how much easier it would be if he left, rather than how that idea should have bothered me. There will be no more uncomfortable silences, no more guilt when I ignore his attempts to speak, and no more acting as though I'm not paying attention when he looks at me across the dinner table. I then began to consider what that would actually entail, returning home to a deserted house, without his awful dad jokes to laugh at, and without his off-key humming as he brewed his morning coffee. Even though I've been trying my hardest to pretend he's not there, knowing he's there has brought me peace even during these terrible months. I was cleaning the kitchen today when Ashley came over and saw that I was wearing my AirPods. I had to confess that I wasn't listening to anything when she asked. To prevent Peter from attempting to speak with me, I simply insert them whenever he is at home. I felt somewhat immature when I said it aloud. How long are you going to punish both of you for one mistake? Ashley asked me, and I know she's right. Either way, the money is gone. Our savings won't be restored by being cold and aloof. However, those 8 months of lying come to me every time I consider lowering my defenses or attempting to return to normal. However, even though he is right here, I am now the one acting phony, behaving as though I don't hear him, don't give a damn, and don't miss him. Last night, everything collapsed, really fell apart, not just our pattern of ignoring one another. Peter arrived home from work late. That's what he's been doing more of lately, most likely to get away from me. He wasn't silent about it this time, though. He claimed we needed to talk as soon as he entered our bedroom, where I was feigning to read a book. I reached for my AirPods, as I usually do, but he wouldn't have it this time. No more hiding, Kathy. We're having this conversation. Whether you want to or not, he replied. literally removing them from my grasp. He was standing at the doorway when I attempted to exit the room. Firm, yet not in a threatening way. If I truly wanted to leave, he added, he'd move, but it would prove everything he was about to say. I sat down again, arms crossed, expecting another apology speech, but I didn't receive one. Rather, he informed me that he had finished apologizing. He stated, "I made a terrible mistake with our money. I broke your trust. I've owned that every single day for the past 3 months. I've done everything humanly possible to make it right. Picked up extra work, gone to counseling, and been completely transparent with every penny I make or spend. But you've done nothing but punish me and punish us." He refused to allow me to use that justification once again when I attempted to interrupt him to remind him of how deeply his covert dealings had wounded me. He stated, "Yes, I hurt you. I get that, but you're choosing to keep hurting both of us. You're choosing to kill our marriage day by day. The woman I married wouldn't do this." That got me angry. I informed him that since he was the one who risked our future, he had no right to discuss the lady he married. "Our future isn't in a bank account, Kathy. It's in how we treat each other, and right now you're treating me like someone you despise, not someone you married," he added, looking at me with a weary face. Then he truly affected me. After taking out his phone, he showed me a spreadsheet that included all of the extra hours he had worked, the money he had saved, and the items he had sold. He has contributed about $112,000 to our savings in just 3 months. In the meantime, in order to avoid having to make dinner with him, I've been spending more money than normal on takeout. "I'm not asking you to forgive and forget," he replied. He simply shook his head and said, "No, what you're doing is worse. I made a mistake trying to build something for us, even though I went about it wrong." I tried to turn it back on him by saying something like, "Well, now you know how it feels to have your trust broken. I'm asking you to stop actively trying to destroy us, because that's what you're doing, and I can't take it anymore. You're making a conscious effort to undermine us, and you're getting there." Then he delivered the real kicker to me. He said that I have been intentionally trying to make him feel unwelcome in his own house, rejecting all attempts at connection and pulling away from him. He claimed that it seemed like I was attempting to get him to go so I could pretend to be the victim, the woman who was deserted by her gambling husband. However, that is not how this story will unfold. If our marriage fails, he continued, it won't be because I gave up, but rather because you put your rage before our love, and everyone will know it. To that, I was at a loss for words. I was unable to make him the antagonist for the first time. He was done trying to get past my barriers and being the only one standing up for us. He wasn't shouting or being cruel. Last night he slept in the guest room once more, but this morning was different. He merely made his coffee and went to work early, rather than attempting to engage me in conversation at breakfast like he typically does. No inquiry about my plans for the day, no effort at a farewell kiss. It made me feel strangely nervous. Now that he's truly staying away, after months of pushing him away, it seems weird, like when you're swimming and all of a sudden the bottom falls out from under you. The worst part is that, after months of acting as though he doesn't exist, I found myself using Find My iPhone 3 times today to check his location. I worry about his whereabouts when he's gone, even when he's right in front of me. This is the first time he's ever checked out. He has always been the one attempting to make things better, get in touch with me, and keep us safe. The notion that I finally managed to push him away entirely, that all of my icy shoulders, silent treatments, and rejected affection ultimately broke something that can't be restored, may be what frightens me the most. 2 weeks have passed since Peter's altercation, and things have changed, but not in the way I anticipated. Things have gotten worse, but in a totally other way, rather than better. I'm seeing him back away now, and it's making me mad. He has been arriving home from work later and later. When he arrived home last night, he smelled like perfume, but I initially persuaded myself it was just the additional consulting hours he's been working to rebuild our money. He simply shrugged and stated he had a client appointment at a department store at 8:12 p.m. when I questioned him about it. The problem is that I can't even bring myself to discuss it without coming across as hypocritical. I mean, after spending months acting as though he doesn't exist, How can I expect explanations? But I'm being consumed by it. I want to pick up his phone whenever it buzzes so I can see who is messaging him. I question whether he's actually going to the place he claims to go every time he departs for work. Ashley claims that I'm overly suspicious and that Peter isn't the kind to be unfaithful. She reminded me that I was the one who turned him away and turned down love. What did you expect from every effort he made to make things better? Just keep trying forever while you treat him like he's invisible, she begged. I can't help it. Though, I saw that he had changed the password on his phone last week. That's something he has never done. The worst part is that I still can't bring myself to make things right. When I casually brought it up, he simply gave me this unreadable look and said, "Why does it matter? You haven't spoken more than 10 words to me in months anyway." This voice in my head stops me every time I consider saying I'm sorry or acknowledging that perhaps I went too far. What if he rejects me after I grovel? What if he tells me it's too late once I finally let my guard down? What if I turn around and plead for pardon like some desperate fool after everyone discovers how I've been treating him? Instead, I'm in this awful limbo, watching my husband disappear, but I'm too proud to stop myself. I've tried asking him about his day at dinner and making coffee before he wakes up, but he just responds with brief, courteous responses as if I'm a stranger he's stuck chit-chatting with. While washing laundry yesterday, I discovered a receipt in his jacket pocket, dinner for 2 at this upscale downtown Italian restaurant. When I plucked up the confidence to inquire, he explained that it was a business meal with a prospective client, which made my stomach plummet. The problem is that I would have accepted him without question 3 months ago. I don't know anything right now. After everything that transpired with the trade, I vowed never to check his credit card statements online, but I can't stop myself. Every charge at a store or restaurant makes my head spin with all the possible outcomes. Is he going to meet someone? Is he purchasing presents that I am unaware of? I'm aware of the irony. After ignoring him for months, I'm now fixated on his every action. I used to avoid looking at him, but now I monitor every breath he takes, reject his touch, and scrutinize every woman's name that appears on his work calendar. Ashley said I'm behaving just like those crazy, domineering women I used to mock, but she doesn't get it. I feel like I'm losing control of everything, so how am I meant to behave normally all of a sudden? After spending so much time erecting these barriers, how can I suddenly turn on the switch and be kind and trustworthy? He brought takeout from my favorite restaurant home last night, something he used to do frequently when he was attempting to make amends. However, he simply left it on the counter and proceeded to the guest room this time. No attempt to converse or dine together. It frightened me and felt like a farewell. I wanted to follow him so we could finally talk, but I wasn't sure what I would say. How do you acknowledge that you've been mistaken for so long without looking at everything? Sorry, I've been horrible to you. Please don't leave me. Asking someone to stay after you've shown them the door for months is pitiful. Last night I finally broke, but not in the way I had anticipated. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation over enigmatic perfume odors or late nights. Rather, it was something so insignificant that ultimately broke my heart. One of Peter's shirts was in the guest room hamper when I was doing laundry. His wedding ring was still in the pocket. Even while he was day trading and lying about it, he has never removed it in 4 years. However, it was there, seemingly meaningless, just sitting in his pocket. Holding the ring as if it were trial evidence, I barged into his home office where he was once again working late. I started making charges about all the late nights and password changes, and I insisted on knowing who he was seeing. Everything I had been suppressing for weeks was just spilling out, and I was in full-on crazy wife mode. Peter simply sat there as I vented. When I eventually lost my temper, he grabbed his phone, opened his calendar, and began going over all of the late meetings from the previous month. Names, times, locations, and all of the details were recorded. After that, he showed me his chain of emails with the consulting business he has been using. It turns out that he was telling the truth about everything. He has been putting a lot of effort into correcting his error. When I take a shower at the gym following late client meetings, the ring falls off, he remarked softly. The person it's meant to remind me of hasn't been around for months, so I kept forgetting to put it back on. I felt like I was slapped by that. In reality, I had been the one to check out of our marriage long before he ever removed the ring, but here I was accusing him of adultery. He then remarked, "You know what's funny, Kathy? I lost our money trying to build a future for us, and you've spent the last 4 months making sure we don't have a future at all." That was the last thing that made me open up. As usual, I began to defend myself, but he interrupted me. "I'm moving out next week," he stated. "Not because I found someone else, but because you decided your pride was worth more than our marriage. I've tried everything to fix my mistake, but you're still making new ones every day." I would like to say that I apologized right away, that I finally realized my mistake, and that I pleaded with him to stay, but I didn't. Rather, I turned to exit the room, like I have been doing for months. However, Peter's statement this time stopped me cold. "You didn't just punish me, Kathy. You punished us. And now you've got what you wanted. I'm done trying. I'm done apologizing. I'm done watching you pretend I don't exist while checking my location every hour. I'm done being married to someone who'd rather destroy our marriage than admit they might be wrong too." I felt my entire world turn sideways as I stood there with my hand on the doorknob. I realized for the first time how bad things were. I had been so intent on holding Peter accountable for. It's a mistake that I turned into someone I didn't even recognize. Someone small, someone harsh. This is not what I ever wanted. At last I turned back to him and muttered, "I simply couldn't move past the pain." "No, you wouldn't get past it," he told me. "There is a distinction." He was correct. With each disregarded attempt at reconciliation and each cold shoulder, I had been choosing this outcome every single day. I chose rage over healing every night. I had made us both miserable because I was afraid of coming across as weak if I forgave him. "Is it too late?" My voice was hardly heard as I asked. Peter remained silent for a while before responding. Finally, he answered, "I don't know, but I know I can't keep trying on my own, and I won't stay simply because you're suddenly afraid of losing me. That's not love, that's possession, and we both deserve better than that." He says we need room to see if anything can be saved, but he's still leaving next week. I can't even argue with him about it, which is the worst part. He's correct. I was too proud to bow and too scared of appearing weak to be able to forgive, so I broke something valuable. I discovered his wedding ring on my dresser this morning, along with a message that read, "Let me know when you decide if you want to be married more than you want to be right." In the interim, I must discover my identity without attempting to win back someone who refuses to be won. Now that I have both of our rings on my necklace, I'm wondering how my pride allowed me to become someone my husband had to leave. I'm wondering if it's truly too late to change into the type of person who can own up to their mistakes and choose love above approval. I'm wondering if it was too late for me to finally learn this lesson. 2 weeks have passed since Peter moved out. That Cold War I said at the outset? It turns out it was merely the quiet before the storm hit. I'm sitting in our too quiet home now, wearing his ring on this chain next to mine, and reflecting on how I made 1,000 small mistakes in response to his one major one. He's staying at his brother's house on the opposite side of town. We occasionally text, usually about mundane matters like mail or bills. He continues to try to put things right on his end by sending weekly payments into our savings account. I'm currently in therapy to try to understand why I felt the need to discard 4 years of marriage in order to make a point. I believed I was punishing him for squandering our future through gambling. Rather, I risked everything on the belief that he should suffer, gambling away our present. I'm now coming to the realization that marriage isn't about scorekeeping. I destroyed our marriage trying to destroy someone, and Peter lost our money attempting to build something. Ashley is continuously inquiring about our impending divorce. To be honest, I have no idea. According to Peter, he needs more time to determine whether anything can be saved. He claims that rather than merely being afraid of losing him, he needs to know that I'm changing because I want to get better. He is correct. Love is not the same as fear of losing something. We both deserve more than that, love. Here I am, the wife who resented her husband's attempts to take away her resentment. It turns out that ignoring someone's error for months doesn't always indicate strength. Sometimes it simply indicates that you weren't worthy of their apology in the first place. He left the house keys on the counter, and they are still there. When I can demonstrate that I want a companion more than a punching bag, he will return. Until then, I'm discovering the hard way that pride makes for lonely companionship, and that being correct doesn't keep you warm at night.